My name is Kayla Ireland. Welcome to the Inside Scoop of Living with Cerebral Palsy. This is a talk show about spreading awareness about this common difference. Today for National CP Awareness Month 2023, we have Kyle Scott, who lives in Canada, to discuss his newest book, Living with Cerebral Palsy. It is a collaboration book that Katrina and I are co-authors of. It just released Saturday, which was also National CP Awareness Day. Welcome and congratulations, Kyle.
Thank you. Pick up. Yeah. Nice and loud.
Thank you.
Thank you. There you go. Yeah. So everybody got their book, I take it.
Yeah.
Good. 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 So you go ahead. You have any questions or?
Tell us about what type of CP you have.
What type of CP? Yeah.
Well,
The athoid cerebral palsy. So again, that would be that he has a spasticity. There's the fine and gross motor skills are involved. Sometimes, as everybody is aware of, when they have cerebral palsy, it depends on what type you have, that you sometimes can't control it because it's like if you're excited, or if it's just like you say you're having not a great day, or if you're upset about something and when somebody went through a red light, it's like, what the heck, right? So anyways, it all depends on, so Kyle's athoid type of cerebral palsy affects him in the sense of, how many different types are there? There weren't as many that are athoid? Yeah, so I guess when Kyle was being investigated by certain doctors, they didn't need as many patients like Kyle that had his type of athoid type cerebral palsy. So they don't like to compare, but unfortunately, when you do deal with this on a daily basis, you're a doctor that deals with this, you do get to see certain people that fall in certain classifications, right? So Kyle's was kind of unique because it was kind of yes and no and no and yes. And so, and as you develop, right, it can change a little bit. You can get a little bit more spastic or you can get a little bit less. There's a lot of things that happen in that. So I take it it's Kayla, right? Is your name Kayla? Yeah. So I take it, Kayla, you can understand all that as well, right? Yeah.
Katrina and I both have spastic quad CP, but have two totally different stories.
Yes, exactly. And that's what it is, right? There are no two really alike, but yet you still come into the same bowl, right? When you mix in that salad, we just toss it all around. So, it's one of those things. Kayla disappear? Where are you, Kayla?
She's probably going to the next question.
Where are you from?
Connecticut. I grew up in Bristol. Marcy and I are actually friends from elementary school.
Oh, nice.
Yeah, and I now live in New Milford, Connecticut, which is right outside of Danbury.
Oh, okay. All right.
What is that?
Oh, there you are, Kayla. Your next question.
What is athoid?
Say that again.
What is athoid?
What is Abigail? I'm not getting that last one.
It's not coming through clear.
What is writing process like? I'm looking to see if there's any questions that were sent. So you used to have been friends for school buddies? Is it?
Since fifth grade.
Wow. Here she is. Let's try it again, Kayla.
What is Aveo, the term you used?
What is the day of the term you use is what I'm picking up.
No,
No?
I think she's asking what the type that Kyle has, that must be the first time she's heard that.
Oh. Oh, okay, she got that right. So athetoid, it's they call it where you can be slightly dystonic, where you get tight, and then you can get loose. So his type of cerebral palsy is where he has the spasticity, but he can also relax. So he's not really tight. He's kind of in between. So it all depends on when he's trying to focus on something. Let's say, if you're feeding yourself. So when you have to take the fork and put it into that noodle of pasta, your hand starts to really shake. And because you're concentrating on something. But if you didn't have to concentrate on it, you could probably spear it very easy. Saying, I want to get that, ravioli on my fork, you start moving it all over, and then by the time you get it, it's like, it's gone somewhere. So that's what happens. So it's when you are focusing on something, your spasticity can heighten. But as you try to relax yourself, you can help yourself to take that tone down. So with Kyle having the athetosis type of cerebral palsy, he is that's when they measure his tightness and also his relaxation. So in a lot of cases, the spasticity is what creates his havoc. It causes more problems. Now Kyle does get Botox in his legs, in his abductors. He gets Botox done there because it helps to shut those muscles down a bit. So they don't.
I had that.
Yeah.
I did not like that. I had that done.
Did you?
It hurts.
Yeah. He goes, every 3 months? Yeah, every 3 months. Yeah.
Kyle, I envy you because I said because I'm ambulatory. I'm very lucky I'm ambulatory, but it did help. But for me, it didn't. To me, it didn't help me enough to put myself.
Getting it done. Yeah, yeah. And so for Kyle, it warrants it because he has his one hip is completely eroded. So what happens is the muscle and what happens is, this keeps, see my shoulder, the way it's moving. When he gets the pain, he will just continue like that. Somebody has Parkinson's and you're rotating around. So it's hurting, but that, because it's hurting, is creating him to have more pain, and it's constant friction. So that helps that to relax, so it doesn't create bursitis per se. It doesn't create like the muscle strain, and it has helped him over the period of years. So it's something you don't want to have to get done, but in his case, and he seems to tolerate fairly well, and he's had it for years. And he had to have serial casting done too. So they would put his legs and his feet, and pretty well calf and feet, into casts for 6 weeks. And then
I had that too.
Did you have that done 9 days before? Then they cut a little happy face out and they get a degree. So you get that ankle, get that foot down. So that was another, thing. And but it works. So Kayla, to your question,
from college,
that's how it affects them.
Kyle graduated from college to become an architectural technician, but continues to find it difficult to fit into a world that is ill-equipped for those with disabilities. After years of struggling to find his purpose in the architectural field, he decided to write a memoir of his life with cerebral palsy. Please tell us about your incredible memoir in a split second.
So go ahead, Kyle. So I will briefly tell you about the architecture. So he graduated on the Dean's List. He did very, very well. He overcame a few things. First of all, when you do architecture, you're to do drawing as well. And so that's, even though you use the computer, using the AutoCAD program and so on and so forth, he had to learn how to draw. So he had a fantastic professor that actually she sat down and she didn't know what she was going to do. Yeah, so she wrote the forward page in this book, Living with Cerebral Palsy. And so she took it upon herself. She went home that night and told her husband, I have a student in my class. I don't know what I'm going to do because he has to draw and he has cerebral palsy and he can't use his hands to draw. But he can go on the computer. If you want to scribble. Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, Kyle says, if you want me to scribble, it's right up my alley, but I won't be able to draw you a straight line. So what happened is this lady went to work and she came up with the fact of when she taught Kyle, so she taught him how you had to draw. And so then what he orchestrated to her, how you hold things, how you draw things, and how it's to be. So she got that he understood what needed to be done, and understanding what needed to be done gave her the clarification that his aptitude is definitely as true of somebody who can draw, because it's the understanding. Anybody can draw a straight line, but are you drawing the straight line accordingly to what is instructed? So moving forward on that, Kyle did very well in that class. And so then what happened with Kyle when he left school, going for interviews, basically what happened, Kyle?
Well, look at the guy in the wheelchair, not the
So they're looking at the guy in the wheelchair. So they're looking at this young man in the wheelchair looking like what? So he's an architect. So they're looking at Kyle's disability and the complexity of it by saying, how can he conform to what we need in our program? Multitasking was one of the big things that they kept telling him, is that, oh, you have to multitask. So that means answering telephones. We need you to go out and measure. Well, Kyle can't go out and measure. If you can't do those things because of the fact that he can't go into construction sites because, as you can see, he's in a wheelchair. So they looked for things for him that he wouldn't be able to fit the job for, and they focused on that and said, well, in their respect of trying to hire somebody, Kyle could have been hired. They need 2 or 3 people to hire somebody. Like if they hired Kyle, they would need to hire somebody to maybe go up through the measuring of the job or talking on the telephone. But even though we have the programs that we have that you're using right now, we have many different types of programs with the computers. You really don't need to talk to the person per se. But anyhow, they looked at every angle. So he's had multitude of interviews. Thank you very much for coming in. And oh, you're so inspiring, and don't give up, and don't forget volunteer work. Well, then you say to yourself, well, why can't I volunteer for you? So these people didn't realize how silly they sounded, because it's almost like, find somebody else to volunteer because I'm not into that, or I don't want to do that, so on and so forth. So it's been very, very difficult. So now coming to the book, the inspiration of writing the book, Kyle's wanted to write a book for a very long time. So you were what age, Kyle? How much? 13, 14. So what happened was we did meet somebody when we were on vacation down in Florida, that one of the step-grandfathers, step-grandson, wrote a book, and he had cerebral palsy. He was from California. So Kyle was quite interested in this, because at the time at 13, 14, Kayla, you probably understand too, that when you're 13, 14, you're developing in this world that's just not quite the same world as for everybody else, right? So you have questions, and you have like, how, what am I going to do and how I'm going to be heard? So this young man was in university, and he was talking about his story while he was in university. So it was like he was a bulldozer, and when he went in, it was going to get, I'm here, I'm going to get an education, and you are going to listen to me, and this is how it's going to happen. So with all due respect, he was very polite about it, but he had to advocate for himself. He didn't have family to advocate for him as much. He had himself to advocate for. So Kyle was inspired by his determination, and he was inspired by his intelligence, that taking his own life and saying, I have to be in charge of this. So Kyle was at that crossroads at that point by saying within himself, I didn't know, as his father, but questioning, what's my purpose? How am I going to be like him? How am I going to make my mark here? And so on and so forth. So going through all the next formative years, into 18 and so on and so forth, getting his education, it wasn't until all these doors started closing. I can't get a job. I can't date. My friends are all going to school. They're all getting jobs. They're all having relationships. They're all traveling. They're getting their driver's license, so on and so forth. And so Kyle just said, so I guess this is it. This is my life, right? And so I said, well, yeah, it is. And so what are we going to do about it? So he just said, I think I want to start writing a book about my life, and I'm going to move forward and do what I can, and not worry about the architectural job, but I just want to focus on maybe telling my story and letting people know who is that person that's in the chair. It's just not that boy in the wheelchair. It's just not that young man in the wheelchair. It's like, I want you to know who I am and what I'm all about. Because the big question was, you're an architect? And Kyle would say, yes, so proudly. There we are. And he would say, yes, I am. And they would look like, oh, wow. Oh, well, that's cool. That's neat. And so when we talked about it, I said, it's really interesting. I said, because they sort of like get themselves, they're perplexed as to, you're an architect and you wrote a book. And so where'd you get all the information? How did you do this? How did you do that? Well, again, if you read in the book, Kayla, it was about a village, right? So he talked about the village. So his life changed at birth in a split second. People live their lives, and their lives can change at any time in a split second. Any time. Just because I've led up to 61 years of age, I've led a life, I have been in a wheelchair, but my life changed in a split second the day Kyle was born. So I'm not in a wheelchair, but I'm living, because he's my son, we're all living a life that has changed, in a wonderful way. It's been such an education. It's been an eye opener, that the world, we have such differences in many different facets, right? But it's been a wonderful education. And so Kyle wanted to put his story down because he needed to let people know what was in his mind. And from
It's sad that so many people focus on disability and not the ability.
Not the ability. Yes. And that was the main thing, is that they were all, when I told them that when he wrote this book, I said, well, how did he write this book? And I said, with one finger. What do you mean one finger? I says, he typed the book with one finger over and over and over again. And I said, to the point where he had to take muscle relaxers because his neck was so stiff. He had to say to him, you need to draw back. And he was just like on it and on and on it. So he just worked so hard on it. But it was important for him, and it was a validation for him and for somebody else to express themselves, so that you can't stop educating, because there's the next person that's going to come next to you. They look at you, but they have no idea what your day is consisted of. They have no idea of the challenges that you face that we take for granted. And the only way they know is sometimes, as you raised your book like this, Kayla, is you get to tell them your story. So this has been a little bit of an opener for a lot of people to express themselves that they normally, because it's overwhelming to start something, right?
One yeah, but my God, he was,
So how did you choose who was going to be part of the book?
but I cannot oppose, yeah, whoever is willing to tell the story.
So he put it out there that what he found, I'll back up slightly. What he found was he got a lot of people commenting like, "Oh, I wish I was like you. That I was able to express my story, and you've inspired me, and so on and so forth." And he says, "Well, you can, right?" And so this is what I was going to say to Kayla, and it was like Kyle figured. He said, "I think there's a platform here that these people don't have that opportunity, and it's overwhelming for them to be able to start something. Where do you start? Whether it's financially." And knowing how to do this and so on and so forth. So Kyle figured that maybe
So I was part of collaboration book, not other members. Yeah, yeah.
okay, so Kyle is in this book called Motivate to Motivate. It's called To Motivate, and he was also in a collaboration of 9 other men. And this book is in Britain magazine. It's a nice glossy magazine from Britain. It's called To Motivate. So they have it for women, they have it for men, they have it for able, and so on and so forth, like to be able to express themselves for mental illness or whatever the case may be.
Kyle
People can.
graduated from college.
What was that?
Mistake.
Oh, that was a mistake? Okay. So what happened is Kyle thought that there's a platform for a collaboration of people to be able to express themselves, that he could make it a little easier because he had access to a little bit more contact to get this book done. So with using the people that he used previous and sending it out there, and they thought it was a good idea. So that's how it all started. And again, what we're saying, it's Tara, correct?
Katrina.
Katrina.
Mhm.
Oh, so you're Katrina. Oh, I'm sorry, Tara. I said Katrina. So Katrina, it's people that have read his book that came to him, and some of the people, well, I guess maybe that are in the back of this book, I don't know exactly. They thought that, yeah, maybe I can too, and it's inspiring for them sometimes to get what's inside out, right? Starting in a small step. Is that what you felt, Kayla? Yeah. And so somebody can hear you and know exactly what Kayla's all about and what Kayla has to say. And look at me here, and it's just again a platform. And it was something Kyle has never done. It's something Kyle felt through all this.
And I think that I think there's not one that could ever,
There's not one ever made.
ever made.
So Kyle says he doesn't think there's been one ever done. So this is maybe just the beginning. That's right. That's right. It's too bad Oprah canceled the show, and too bad, what's her name, Ellen. We would have had these guys on the Ellen show, maybe. Maybe the Christmas
I'm
holiday.
sure there's others now. There's other
I
shows
know.
we could get on.
I know. But do you know what I mean, though? It's just been that one of those things for him. And Kyle doesn't sit here by saying, "Oh, I'm an author," or "I'm this," or "I'm that." I'm just somebody who wants to express myself, and it was the way that he felt that he needed to start something, and then doing some research and having the support of
Are surprised only 20 of 17 million warriors contributed?
17 million. What? What 17 million warriors? Well, here, she's got it down here. Oh, you are okay. Are you surprised that only 20 out of 17 million warriors contributed? What do you think of that?
Well, no, but maybe not many people knew about.
So he says, no, yeah.
Not many of with ways and not to tap the gold.
Yeah, so Kyle was saying maybe there's a lot of people who don't know about it yet. And he says maybe he kind of used the word brave enough, but maybe not confident enough. Is confident would probably be the word to maybe speak about how they feel. Yeah, he says, you hope that they don't feel this is not a sad story. It's not a sad, that's not what it's about. It's not about a sad story. It's about at all. No, it's about how I live and what I deal with on a daily basis and how what I look like or what I'm looking at the world, how I perceive the world and how the world perceives me and how I want to be perceived. I think Kayla's got a question here. She's working hard.
And I have a question too after Kayla.
Yeah.
That's not on the list.
That's not on the list.
I'm gonna, yeah.
Yeah. I like your glasses, by the way.
Oh, thanks so much.
Welcome to my world.
Welcome to my world. And you know what? And that's Kayla. Kayla, that is exactly why you need to voice yourself, because people need to know what Kayla's thinking. People need to know how Kayla feels. People need to know what Kayla's world is all about, because they have no clue. Because everybody's busy. Everybody has a place to go, and they're so involved with what they're doing, but they forget to see what's going around. But I will tell you, though, I don't know whether you notice this or not, is that we can generally tell when somebody around you, whether it be a salesperson, whether it be somebody who is a restaurant, a server, or whether it be somebody you meet in church or whatever, you can tell when somebody has a connection of understanding you, because there's just something in their eyes and something in their actions that they understand. And we've had people come to us and talk to us, and it's a look, and it's a smile, and it's an understanding. And it's just one simple thing that they do that they've been touched. So they're either going through it, past or future, or present. You just know that they have been touched. And people who have not. And for those who have not is those who still have to educate. And as frustrating as it can be, but you still have to educate, because a simple thing is, we'll get at a restaurant a menu. Kyle doesn't get one sometimes. Not sometimes, more than sometimes. Because maybe the server has no idea, and they don't know how to sort of like cross that line by, how do I know if there's somebody home, does he understand, or does he read? I don't want to embarrass him. Well, all those things should be trained before you go on the floor to begin with. And they should be asking people like myself, can I talk to you about something as a manager? We have this, what can we do to help? Like how do we approach? Because I can guarantee you, they have not been trained in that. However, we can spot it a mile away when a server knows exactly, because they have a loved one, whether it's a brother, sister, aunt, cousin, whatever, and they come to you first. And they directly look at you in the eyes, and they ask you how you're doing, and they get you they fix you up with the menu really quickly, and they have contact with you directly, not looking at me or not looking at somebody else. You know what I mean? They directly look at you, and they involve themselves with you. And that's all they need to do. And,
most people don't have to pre-program their show.
Exactly. And
Yeah.
and that is, it's very, very true. So, getting back to, the split second, getting back to with this collaboration, I think, Kayla, I think you're one of the 17 people, the 20 out of the 17 million, I should say, that was able to express themselves, that you haven't been able to do this before.
That's amazing. I think that and Katrina's story is there too. And in the book, I think that there should be many additions to this book. And also, I wanted to ask you, from reading all of them. I've only read 2 so far. Kyle, which one was most similar to you? And was there one story in particular that really, it was a wow moment for you?
We all have this similar story that there's always something unique.
So we all have similar stories, but there are uniquenesses to the stories, right? But which one do you feel is similar to you and that stands out for you? Which one is unique for you?
You don't have to answer right away. You can think about it and get back to me too.
But is there one that stands out that's like, oh, I relate to this 100%. This is like how I feel. He's saying that a lot of them have, he says that's a hard one because I guess a lot of them hit sort of every note. But
Not a couple of days. I can't.
he can't say it. Yeah. So I think he said it's a hard one, and I think when I'm listening to him coming up with one, because the only thing I can say is because Kyle's sensitive in the sense of he's sensitive to other people's emotions, that I think when reading these testimonies here and these little stories, I think that all of them intend to probably hit each one of the sensories that he feels. Kyle, is there one that actually that makes you feel that maybe they're not being heard or not, like that they could maybe sort of like push themselves more, or feel like there's something you can say to them, like give them more strength, like to push themselves?
Yeah.
So maybe,
but they don't have the support of family and friends.
Okay, so there's so I was just digging a little bit for you. So there you are there. So that's the one thing he's saying, is that the one thing he's noticed in here is that the people, not all of them, a couple, he's saying, is they don't have the support of family and friends. And it's the support, that you need that village is what, he spoke about. They have the attitude as a warrior. Oh, so they have a bit of an anger. Oh, he says they have a little. He's noticed that some of them have a little bit of an edge. They have a little edge, which is a little bit of an attitude, but it's understandable. But he's saying that some of them just haven't had that support that others have had, and so that's what I guess when asked that question, that's what I think he's noticed is that some of them just don't have that same type of support, and that is a hard thing. For some people, it's a hard thing. We spoke to one gentleman on a podcast. He was in the States, Ohio, and he told me that when he was at birth, they found out he had a very rare syndrome, and his arms and legs didn't function, so on and so forth. He says, my dad has never been sober since. And he says he's upstairs right now, and he said, Kyle, he says that I could get emotional about it right now. He said, because I've never seen the support that somebody like yourself has had. And he directed to me, and when he directed to me, I only know what goes on here. And I know that every household, whether it's normal or you have abilities, whatever the case may be, disabilities, I don't know what goes on in everybody's household. So I could be as ignorant as the rest by the rest of the people not knowing how these other people are functioning through their disabilities and how families function. And I know there's a lot of breakups with families that have children with disabilities that they just don't seem to. There's a lot against marriages in the sense of they split up. And we've been told over the years that, we've been lucky that we've been married for as long, my wife and I, for as long as that we have, because people in with disabilities, they just seem to get divorced and stuff like that. So we never really looked at that. So we were a little shocked when we started talking on podcasts and stuff that how hard these people have had to have it because they haven't had that support by two parents, in the sense of they've had real struggles. So that was one of the big learnings that we had, is that there's no comparisons. All we have to do is look at the fact of how they're able to sort of reach out and try to involve themselves with as many people who care about them and who can help support them, and they can help support their friends and family, right? And that you hope that they get where they need to get. But that's primarily the first book, but primarily the second book was based on how can I get these people to express themselves the way that I was able to. And I opened up the floodgates, and let's see what happens. So that's to your question. I think that's volume 1, right? So, and you don't know what happens until you start something. You don't know. My uncle started WrestleMania 1 because they were gonna fold, because my two uncles were big world tag team champion wrestlers down in the States. And so he started WrestleMania 1, not knowing that it is still going on to this day. My uncle is no longer with us, but he started that. And he started volume 1. And it's every year, it's billions and billions of dollars they're making because of something he started. So this is a book that started with some of your stories that you hope that you're going to inspire, and you will inspire other people alike, right? So,
That's how our show started. Our show started just like as a one-time show fluke. We all reconnected, and we've had so many people on our show. It's crazy.
Yeah, that's good. Yeah. And that's like this gentleman that I met, and we met. Yeah. Cody? Cody. Yeah. So, I mean, you don't know. Like, you don't know where it goes. And the whole point of it is just that you start something of truth, and you start something that you have a compassion for, in the sense of this is my life. Like, and that's how Kyle started it. And I'm going to tell you something. So all the things Kyle talked about in that book, all the things he talked about, the big thing that he talked about in there was a relationship. The big thing he talked about, yes, he would like to get a job, so on and so forth, but this is like done more for him than getting a job, in the sense of not finances, but meeting certain goals that nobody's been able to do. Nobody's been able to be a #1 author, in the sense of on Amazon and whatnot. Nobody's been able, like, that he knows, is put their book in the library, and he's done public speaking for educational assistants, to which was 100 and how many? 160 sat and listened to Kyle. And in that audience were the educational assistants that taught him. And some of them were his EAs going through school. It's just, these things are so much more important, because it validates you have something to say, and you make people listen, right? You make people listen, and you make people stop, and you make them think, and you make them think about their stubbed toe that they're so wrapped up about, right? And they're looking at you like, oh my God, like, I have nothing to complain about. And because, keeping the positiveness. So since then, Kyle, one of the segments in his book, in The Split Second, did you read The Split Second? Did you read his book, The Split Second? No. Okay, not yet. Okay. So
we will, though. We will.
So there's a part in there about dating, just wanting to find love, wanting to be loved and experiencing all the things that life should be, fulfill if that's what you're looking for. And so Kyle has now been dating since October, and he's been dating, and they've have a wonderful relationship. She's a wonderful young lady. And the first question that people ask me, because I'm in a business that I have clients type of thing. So, anyways, first question, oh, that sounds so nice. Oh, I'm so happy for Kyle. So, is she disabled? I say. And so they go, well, like, let's not beat around the bush, right? So I said, no, she's not actually. Oh, isn't that nice? Oh, wow, she must be special. Well, why is she more special than you, me, or the next person? Because she's dating a disabled person. So you see, all these things start coming out, right? So what Kyle has been wanting is to date, and he's wanted to meet somebody. He's wanted to experience all of the above that comes along with if you're falling in love with somebody. And so that's something that has transpired from his book, because the person who read the book, which is now his girlfriend, she didn't know much about Kyle, but she learned more about Kyle in that book, to the point where she wanted to know him, because he said that he wants to love somebody. He wants to be able to love somebody and treasure somebody for the rest of his life. And that person, that's what she's looking for, is somebody that wants to love her. And
Amazing.
it's like, would that have happened if he didn't write the book? Would that have happened if he didn't put himself out there? And putting yourself out there, this is your world. This is your world. And you make it, right? So, so that's, I don't know, Kyle, what do you have to say about that? About determination? Like, how do you feel? Like, don't give up? Like, how you, like,
Don't give up, but don't let people tell you what you can't do.
yeah, don't let people tell you what you can't do.
You take away from you.
Right. Because Lucille Ball was told by her acting teacher, you'll never be an actor. You'll never do well. I don't know why you're taking acting courses. Well, I don't know if you know that I Love Lucy. She did pretty darn good. So Lucy didn't give up, because one person telling her something does that validate you for the rest of your life. You validate yourself, right? You move on until somebody hears you. I was told he'll never be a writer. His work is not, like, you can tell he doesn't read much. Instead of saying, well, how can we make this work, right? So Kyle had to go back to the drawing board over and over and over again to sort of to vamp it to the way that all these people who have their accolades as an English major and so on and so forth had their expectations of his book. So Kyle learned in a raw fashion how to sort of put this together. My nephew, his cousin, was able to help. He's done some journalism, help guide him through and go through the book with him, and they constructed. There are two people that have never done this before, and it was just something that they just worked on. So, and then again, it comes back to living with cerebral palsy and inviting whomever wanted to write about themselves so they could be heard. So there's 20 more people that are actually being heard, and people are going to read about, because the books that Kyle's selling to all the people that we know, whatever the case be, they're going to know exactly your story, right?
What does
Because guess what?
author of
Yeah.
a collaboration book mean?
Can you do that again for me?
What does being a lead author of a collaboration book mean?
What does being an author of a collaboration book mean? He said, yeah. So, what does being a lead author of a collaboration? Oh, what does it mean?
Nothing. My job was to gather longer was to come together to hopefully not inspire people, but younger generation of people.
So his job was that he wanted people to come together, and he wanted other people to come together that he inspired, in the sense of telling his story. He wanted to inspire them to let go and talk about their story, and that was his main goal, was so that they could just let themselves be heard, and give them that platform, as I said at the beginning, so that you can express yourself. And basically that has made him happier that he's been able to achieve that, because there's 20 more people, and how many? 22. He keeps correcting me. I keep saying 20. 22 people that are now being heard, because people are reading about your stories, and you're educating more people, and you're giving more understanding, because each person that you is able to hear your story is going to be one more person that's going to be educated. It's because you let them know how you feel. So, and you will inspire them, and hopefully that will help them when they meet somebody that has a like similarities to what you have, and they will understand that maybe that little bit more. And I think that's what's been important. That's what Kyle has been wanting to do, because that was something that he never expected. Kyle never expected anything from this. It's like Christmas morning. He didn't really expect much from Santa except for what Santa left them. So the whole thing is that you have what you want. You put out what you think you're going to get, what people are going to read this and have an understanding. But the way
I have no idea how the book was going to do.
he had no idea how that book was going to go, how it was going to be perceived. And it was overwhelming how it was perceived and how it affected quite a few people, and affected them in positive ways. And
I think overall too, the people reading that aren't disabled, when they come in contact with somebody like us three, they have a better understanding of it. So maybe the world will be a little kinder.
yeah, and that's what Kyle's saying: a little kinder, compassionate, understanding, and understanding more about the person that's in the chair now as a being, as opposed to, you don't want pity. You don't want, oh, what a sad thing. You want them to say, that kid, like, oh my God, he's having a fantastic life. Oh, you see what he's doing? Because of what I'm hearing now from my clients is, oh my God, like Kyle was just like he's like, the limits there's no limits now. He's doing fantastic, and he's doing this and doing that. And I say, well, he's doing what is making him happy. And the one thing is that I'm wanting them to hopefully say to me soon is that, wow, now that this book is out, wow, he's really inspired people to talk about themselves and put themselves out there so they can be heard too. So it's not about Kyle, it's about you. It's about your story. And
it ends up on television.
You never know. You never know. And who would play you as a character? You want to play yourself? I think maybe Taylor Swift. You look like Taylor Swift. We'll give you bangs and give you a nice blonde haircut. There you go. Yeah. So, Kyle, is there anything that you want to say that like in the sense of how you're feeling and what you're so what's next for you is one of the questions, is what's next for you? Huh? Yeah, what's next for you? Yeah. So
he's already thinking of that second volume.
yes, exactly. So do you want to talk about the kids' book?
Yeah.
Okay, so what do you have? What are you going to talk about the kids' book?
I want to write a kids book of different poems.
Different poems.
Cool.
Short stories for kids' books. For instance, to say like his hearing aids and wheelchair.
Yeah.
He's got all these poems about these dang hearing aids and this wheelchair. He makes sort of like a ton about these hearing aids, like, because they drive you nuts sometimes, right? So just putting that into, you know, a fun thing, and how we feel.
Yeah. Research how grateful, how fun that is.
Yeah, so recess, he's talking about some of the highlights, his recess time in school, how fun that was, and
How grateful.
hockey and baseball and swimming, and just all the different type of things that he's done, and putting them into sort of poetry. But he's also been writing a book, and that's just like in the writing now, that he wants to. We're going to be ending soon, so I don't want to hold that up. He's been writing a superhero, a disabled superhero. So he is and he's got all the things that all the little equipment like Batman had, because Batman had all his little toys. I mean, he was taking down people with all these things that he had. So Kyle's got a supercharged wheelchair, a boat. He's got all these different things that he can go and help out. So he's taking a lot of the kids that are in our sort of village, and he's put them into storylines. So that's one thing that he's been working on too.
So much for coming on the show.
Yes, Kyle, what do you say? So thank you for coming on the show.
Thank you for having me.
Thank you for having me, Kyle said.
Yeah.
It's our pleasure.
It's an honor, Kyle said.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's an honor for us.
Yeah.
I think the young lady was writing something. She was typing.
And how come your story wasn't chapter 1?
Kyle?
Well, I was first of all, it wasn't about me.
Kyle said it wasn't about me.
Oh. But it was his idea, so I was surprised that he wasn't chapter 1.
Yeah.
I did magic, sled piece, and grammar school.
Say that again?
I did magic, sled piece, and grammar school.
Oh, you did magic, did you say? In grammar school?
I did magic sled.
Oh, did
Magic
you?
sled.
I don't know anything about that. What is that? Magic sled. Kyle also said the book was in alphabetical order.
Oh, is that how it goes? Oh, okay.
Yeah, but
I was wondering how he chose what chapter what goes where.
Yeah, keep everybody equal. So so a magic sled. Never heard of that.
Assignment.
Oh, you did an assignment on magic sled.
Oh.
Uh-huh. And how did that go? It went well? It went really well? Oh, very good. Very
Thank you
good.
for doing this segment with us.
Oh, well, thank you for having us.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Share this talk show with your family and friends.
Exactly. That was very nice.
Like, follow, subscribe, and share on Facebook, Instagram, and YouTube.